Welcome to the topic deadlocks. This is coming under Module 4 of CS2 Note for Operating Systems. Contents are mainly based on the textbook Operating System Concepts by Abraham Silberschatz and Peter Gagne, 9th edition, under which Chapter 7 discusses about this deadlock. So this is a very important topic and so many numerical problems will be asked for your exams. So we can see such problems and its solutions in the forthcoming sessions. Now coming to the overall picture of this topic, it is organized as follows. First, the system model. Before getting into the topic, we should have a clear picture of how a system looks like. So the system model depicts the picture of a system with its main ingredients, obviously the processes and its resources. And the second topic is deadlock characterization. So once we are clear with the system model, we can move to the actual villain of this topic, that is deadlock. So we can see what is a deadlock, why it happens in a system, and how it can be represented and analyzed, that we can see as a second topic. And the third one, after discussing the basic concepts, we can see how the system handles the deadlock situation. So just like the way we try to solve our real life problems, various ways are there to tackle with the deadlock. Definitely if we analyze, different persons tackle with the same problem in an entirely different way, right? Just like that, different systems adopt different ways of handling deadlock. So different methods are there. We can see each one in detail. First method is deadlock prevention. In this, the system will find the root cause which creates the deadlock or which causes the deadlock, and somehow the system will prevent such root cause to occur. That is the first method. Second one is deadlock avoidance. Using some extra effort or additional information, the system will assure that the current event will not lead to a deadlock. So somehow avoid such event of deadlock. That is the second method. And the third one is deadlock detection. The system will allow a deadlock to happen. And once it happens, the system will use some procedure or algorithm to find out whether there is deadlock. And if there is such a deadlock happened, it will use some methods to recover from such deadlocks. That is the third method. And one more method is to tackle with this deadlock, that is just ignore this deadlock. That is, some system will adopt this method. This is the most easiest method. In this, what happens is the system will just allow the deadlock to happen and it's ready to face the consequences. And in this extreme case, the system may be crashed or the performance may be slowed down. Anyway, the system is not ready to compromise its regular performance for the sake of a rarely happening activity. That is the fourth method. The main objectives of this topic are to develop a description of deadlocks which prevents a set of concurrent processes from completing their task, and then present a number of different methods for preventing or avoiding deadlocks in a computer system. Two objectives are there, and the first objective will be addressed in this session and the second objective will be addressed in the forthcoming session. Now let us start with the real world example for deadlock. So we can see in this figure, vehicles are moving along different roads aligned in this manner. Now if we look into this vehicle, this set of vehicles moving along this direction, that is from left to right, they got blocked by this vehicle moving along this direction. And if we analyze this road, also the same situation, they are moving from north to south and got blocked by the vehicles in this direction. And for all the roads, the same situation happens. In effect, none is able to move forward. That is, each and every one is waiting for other to move, right? Same situation is there in the case of a system also. That is, a process is waiting for an event to occur and that waiting happens indefinitely. That is called a deadlock. Now let us have some basic idea about a system. A system usually consists of a finite number of resources to be distributed among a number of competing processes. So usually these resources are denoted by R1, capital R1, R2, etc. So we can say that for each resource types there can be multiple instances. For example, printer can be treated as a resource type for which maybe there may be 3 or more printers. So we can say that printer is the resource type which has 3 different instances. Like that, any resource can have any number of instances. And when a process requests for a resource, one instance of the resource will be granted. This is how it is permitted. So what is actually a resource? So anything required by a process for execution can be treated as a resource, can be both hardware or software. Just for example, can be CPU cycles or memory space or files or IO device. Anything can be treated as a resource. So we can say that each resource type Ri has Wi instances, and each process can use this resource by following through 3 different stages. Okay, so first stages, it should request for the resource. So for using a resource, a process has to request for the resource. Just for example, if process needs some memory, it should request using a system called allocate. Like that, if a file is need to be opened, open system call will be used by the process. This is an example for request. Okay, and now if the request cannot be granted immediately due to some reason, for example, if it is already acquired by some other processes, then the process have to wait until it can acquire the resource. And the second stage is use. So once the request is granted, the process can use the resource, that is use. And finally, after completing the usage, it can release the resource. So this is also done using some system calls. For example, in case of memory, it can be freed using the free system calls, or in the case of file, closed system calls can be used for releasing the corresponding file. Now coming to the deadlock characterization. Hope you remember the deadlock situation we have in the process synchronization. So we had 2 different processes, P0 and P1. Initially P0 acquired the semaphore S and P1 acquired the semaphore Q. So we can say that S and Q are the 2 resources here, and events for which they are waiting are signal, right? That is, initially P0 acquire S and P1 acquire Q. Now P0 requires for semaphore Q, but it is already acquired by P1, so P0 have to wait. So the event for which P0 is wait is signal Q. That is, Q will be released by P1 only when it executes signal of Q. Like that, P1 now requests for S, but it is with P0. So P1 will get this S only when the signal of S is executed by P0. So signal is the event for which these 2 different processes are waiting. So what happens here is both P0 and P1 wait indefinitely. So neither is able to proceed. So this is an example for a deadlock situation. Now let us see why this deadlock happens in a system, or what are the different scenarios which lead to deadlock in a system. Typically, 4 different conditions hold simultaneously in a system, it may lead to deadlock. So we can see what are the 4 different conditions. First one is mutual exclusion. That is, if at least one of the resources is mutually exclusive, that is, only one process can access that resource at any time. Or in other words, it is non-shareable. Just for example, printer is a non-shareable device, whereas a disk is a shareable device. So if at least one of the resources non-shareable mode, there can be a chance for deadlock. And the second condition is hold and wait. That is, there should be some process or at least one process The second condition is hold and wait. That is, there should be some process or at least one process holding at least one resource and is waiting to acquire additional resources held by other processes. This, for example, suppose we have a process P1 which hold R1 and R2 and is waiting for R3 which is already held by some other process, say P2. This also may lead to deadlock. And the third condition is no preemption. That is, resources should not be preempted. Preemption in the sense it can be released only voluntarily after completing a task. Just for example, suppose P1 acquire R1 and R2 and suppose that the usage of R1 is already over, but P1 won't release R1 until it finishes the entire task. So this is also lead to a chance for deadlock. And the third condition is no preemption. That is, resource should not be preempted, or in other words, can be released only voluntarily by the process after completing all its tasks. Just for example, P1 acquire R1 and R2, and suppose the usage of R1 is already over, but P1 won't release R1 until the entire execution of P1 is over. This also may lead to a deadlock situation. And the fourth and final condition is that circular wait. There exists or there should be a set of processes P0 to Pn such that P0 is waiting for a resource held by P1 and P1 is waiting for a resource held by P2, etc. And finally, Pn is waiting for a resource held by P0. This is a circular chain of waiting. That is also a condition for a deadlock. So if all the four conditions hold simultaneously in a system, it may lead to deadlocks. So these are necessary for a deadlock to occur, but never a sufficient condition. In the next session, we can see how this deadlock can be easily described using a directed graph called resource allocation graph. Thank you.